Joining us this Thanks for joining us this afternoon. As Mishka said, my name is Calleigh and I'm the Director of Volunteering here at Little Village.
And I'm Daniela, the Volunteer Recruitment Manager. Hello.
Today, we're going to talk you through our experience of turning a wild idea, as Mishka so correctly put it, and how we integrated that into our core offering at Little Village, and that was to pilot one-off volunteering days. So we're just going to talk you through a little bit about what that looked like, what worked well for us, some of the things that maybe we wish we'd thought of before, some of the things we've learned along the way, and where it's got us to as we talk today in May 2025.
So before we go into details about that, just to give you a little bit of context, let me tell you a bit about us. So Little Village, as Mushka was mentioning, is a network of baby banks supporting families with children under 5 living in poverty across London. We pass on great quality clothes, toys, equipment, and safe sleeping spaces to make sure that more children have the essentials they need to thrive. We have 3 main baby banks around London, one in Camden, one in Brent, and one in Tooting. We have a donation and sorting site in Southwark, and we have a very big warehouse in Wandsworth. Thanks to this structure, we are currently able to support and reach families living in 32 out of the 33 London boroughs. And on top of these essential supplies, Little Village also has a signposting and guidance team that connects parents to wider support networks. The volunteers, as you might expect, are the very heart of our operations. In fact, at Little Village, we currently have 69 members of staff, many of which are part-time, while in comparison, in 2024, we had 734 regular volunteers and over 1,000 other volunteers between one-off and corporates. We have a few different volunteering roles that are often evolving. We have some volunteers on site who help support family shop appointments, as well as incoming donations. And outside of this, we also have volunteer drivers who help us deliver bigger items to families, such as beds, cots, or buggies. And we also have volunteers who offer telephone-based support to families. At Little Village, the volunteer team, us and our colleagues, sits centrally. And our role is to build and support the infrastructure around volunteering, which includes recruitment and onboarding, training and engagement. The day-to-day management of volunteers happens directly on site or with the remote teams, not with the volunteering team. Little Village is still a relatively young charity. We're not even 10 years old yet. For our first few years, we were entirely volunteer-led. And it was during the pandemic we saw our biggest growth as a charity, recruiting more staff and volunteers. This was due to us being recognized as part of the crisis response helping families in poverty, which meant we had access to funding and opportunities unique to the time. During the pandemic, like most other charities, we saw increased volunteer activity, which impacted the way we organized our operations. After the pandemic, this didn't continue in the same way. We noticed a higher number of no-shows, increasing difficulty recruiting for regular volunteers, and a tendency to sign up and then leave after only a few sessions. Volunteer behavior was changing. Also, we recognized some internal challenges. For example, some specific times of the year when we would see a drop in regular volunteers' help, especially around summer and Christmas holidays and half-term periods. By the end of 2023, numbers of volunteers were dropping so much that it impacted our day-to-day operations. So we started thinking about an alternative, to take back control and to intentionally create opportunities to volunteer during low peak times. While everybody agrees that having a group of loyal, committed, regular volunteers can be the difference between a family being helped or not, we realized this couldn't continue in the same way.
But alongside of that, we were also really aware of the broader trends in volunteering, as I'm sure everybody on this call is. And these seemingly disheartening stats, 28% being involved in formal volunteering, the 45% decline. And the more we looked at it, we're hearing the same barriers. People are just too busy with work, they've got childcare, in general, they've got busy lives, which means even though they want to help, they just aren't able to. And we see that desire to help hasn't gone anywhere. All these hours of informal volunteering that happens day in, day out, week in, week out, we know that people want to help. There just aren't the opportunities available for them to do it in a way that fits their lifestyle. Now, at Little Village, and I'm sure at most of your charities, we will always need and rely on regular volunteers. But at this point, we were asking ourselves, what else can we do to supplement even more people to come in when and where we need them, but in a way that worked well for them? And for us, that's really where one-off volunteering came in. We saw it as a way to easily address some of these barriers, create flexibility, offer lower time commitments, offer a gateway, a taster for people to get involved, particularly those people that otherwise may have been frightened off by the idea of volunteering. But before we break down the steps that we took to pilot this and then eventually launch it at Little Village, I think there are some common myths out there, and many of which we heard and many of which were very negative around one-off volunteering. So a little myth-busting section here to kick us off and to start showing you how it worked at Little Village. So is it really worth the time if they're only there for a day? And absolutely, we totally get it. What is the point in investing all of that time if they're only coming once? But the fact is, we're seeing a real ripple effect from industry experts all the way down to regular volunteers. And we'll share more about what that looks like for us in this session. But essentially, it's just really short-sighted to think of their impact as only being when they're physically volunteering. We are creating a wider group of advocates, of people that want to engage in what we're doing and support our cause. And the roles that we have designed, the roles that you can design, should be where they can add value straight away with entry-level tasks and tangible outcomes. And these short sessions for us are adding up to thousands of volunteer hours every year. And at the heart of that, every hour that's contributed goes directly to the families that we're helping.
But will they even turn up? This one surprised us too. Our attendance rate holds steady at 73%. Pretty impressive for something often viewed as low or not commitment, especially compared to what we were seeing when looking at our attendance level with regular volunteers. It's easy to sign up and it's easy to show up if it's done right and structured well.
But won't they just get in the way? Our sites definitely felt this panic at first. They've got stuff to do, they've got busy baby banks to run. Aren't the one-off volunteers just going to slow everything down? And again, we'll talk you through the process we use to structure that role and activity, but essentially it's about making sure the tasks are contained and what they're doing is with purpose. Volunteers need to know what to expect, and staff need to be ready and feel confident with their plan for the day.
Staff don't have time to manage more volunteers. We heard this a lot at the beginning, and honestly, that's fair. That's why we're strategic with the dates we offer. It's not every day or every week. It's when we need them, when we have space to host them, and importantly, when it boosts capacity, not drains it. So we plan our one-off days around busy periods to give staff extra support and not extra workload.
They won't be committed in the same way as regular volunteers. Well, actually, at Little Village, we've found the complete opposite, with staff now saying they prefer one-off volunteers to other groups and corporates. These are a group of people that are self-motivated. They are really keen to support, but for whatever reason in their life, they can't commit regularly. They've searched us out by choice. They're not there because they have to be as part of a corporate session. They're not fatigued or complacent as some regular volunteers can be. They're just full of enthusiasm and want to help, just can't commit long term. So there are some of the things that we heard, some of the mysteries that we've solved, if you forgive my terrible pun. But I think what we wanted to do and spend time in this session is talking you through how it worked and how we were able to take it from those misconceptions to what is now a really successful part of our program. So how did we start to do this? Well, we had to make a few key changes for it to work. So first thing was to look at our roles, the roles that they could be doing. Our original on-site volunteering was a catch-all. It was everything from sorting donations right the way through to supporting families. And if you were volunteering on site, you were simply called an on-site volunteer. There was very little structure around the activity you were doing or the training you had to go through. And we knew straight away that just wasn't going to be feasible for one-off volunteers. So we split the role in half. We introduced our baby bank helpers who would focus on families and family-facing tasks. And there is a need for in-depth training and ongoing supervision. We know if they're working with families, they need that level of training and support. But alongside that, we also introduced a pick and pack volunteer who is donation focused. So they're just looking at sorting and packing and quality checking. And those tasks, as crucial as they are, essentially are entry level. If you can clean a pair of shoes, if you can notice a stain on a dress or sort out a Peppa Pig puzzle, you have the skills that we need for this role. The activity is really simple and structured, and it's ideal for people who are only joining us for a few hours because it doesn't require any experience. You can see on this slide here a lovely picture of Sally, who we affectionately have named Sally Shoes. At our Camden site, I will give you no guesses to the area of the site she takes control over. But she's a great example of what getting hands-on experience without prior baby bank knowledge or having volunteered before to the level of expertise it can get you. Although she is cheating on the shoes here as she checks some toys and on a warehouse. But an added benefit for us for splitting this role as well, outside of one-off volunteering, is it allowed us to recruit and engage with different groups of people as well. So whether that was those under 18, those who couldn't volunteer in shop hours, corporate volunteers, or even people that felt they weren't confident enough to work with families, by having this role that purposefully wasn't family focusing, we were able to look at different onboarding journeys and recruiting different types of people, and one-off volunteers were just a part of that. We'd also knew we had to change our onboarding. So we'd already done quite a bit of work before this on simplifying our onboarding, but we knew for one-off volunteers, it had to be even simpler. And our approach, as Daniela said, really had to be, is it easy to sign up because that makes it easy to show up. And we started by asking ourselves as a team 2 key questions. Where can we simplify things without losing key data? And what would be good enough for us simply to give it a go? We weren't trying to build a perfect system, we just wanted to test the idea. So we focused on only getting the information we really needed from them, and that was their basic contact details, an emergency contact, any health conditions, and how they found us. And that really was all we asked from them. It was as simple as one online form, and then the team would send a confirmation email. And in that email, we would share basic information about the day, about their site, our volunteer handbook. And we created a set of template emails so that everyone was having a consistent experience. They got the same information at the same time to the same quality. And we were really, really clear about the fact that you didn't need any experience. You just needed some enthusiasm and essentially a pair of comfy shoes. And that was because we had managed to contain their activity into one task. It was just the sorting. And by doing that, we were also able to take out existing resources that volunteers were using, that regular volunteers were using. We knew they just needed the training guides on that one piece. It also enabled staff to hold briefings much easier, because they're only talking about one piece of activity, one task they had to talk them through, not everything about a baby bank and how shop appointments run. It was just about how our sorting processes work. And by taking on this sort of low tech, light touch process, it made it easier for everyone. Volunteers were able to get on board without feeling an admin overload. Staff could stay focused on delivery, because at this point, it didn't have to be perfect. It just had to work well enough for us to be able to learn as we go. And one of the other key changes that we made was how we recruited for it, because it was a new idea. So we made a really intentional decision not to open the opportunity to everybody right away. We started with a very targeted invite-only approach. And that focused on people who had already been in touch with us, that had already shown interest in volunteering at Little Village, but for whatever reason, when we tried to match them to a schedule or a rota, it didn't quite fit. And that often included people that, as I mentioned, couldn't come in on shop hours. It was also corporates or CSR groups without big budgets, community, faith groups, students, people who helped but just couldn't do it regularly. We were getting lots of these requests. And in the past, we had nothing to offer them. It was thank you very much, but there's sort of no room at the inn. But now we had something to offer them. Now we did. We could keep the conversation going, and we could invite them into Little Village and invite them to be part of our volunteering. But again, at this learning stage, it wasn't just about us filling the slots. We really wanted to learn from this group. So we explored with them, what was it stopping them from signing up to regular volunteering? What was the barriers? What would make it easier? And really, what is it that they were looking for? And could we create an opportunity to fulfill that? And what that did was give us real-time insight into a different type of volunteer, one who is really motivated, but life doesn't suit a traditional volunteering model. But the most important thing is we knew that appetite was there. So we were trying to co-create an experience that not only worked for us and how we needed it, but suited what this group of people were looking for. And I just want to share with you what a volunteer said to us the other week. So she said, I had a wonderful day volunteering at Little Village. The moment you walk into the room, you're hit with warmth and colour. It's such an inviting space. The staff and other volunteers were so friendly and helpful when explaining the tasks. And we got to switch up the roles throughout the day. So the time really flew by. It's lovely to know that your small action will make a big difference to children and families' lives when they're experiencing difficult situations. For my first time doing anything like this, it has inspired me to volunteer as much as I can on a regular basis. What a fantastic organisation, and what a wonderful group of people. And this was from one of our one-off volunteers at Tooting. So lastly, in terms of how we set it up, the steps we took before, it was really about getting buy-in from staff. It wasn't going to work if they weren't on board, because essentially they were the ones hosting these days, or they would be the ones hosting these days. And although we in the volunteer team knew the pick and pack role was perfect for a one-off volunteering day, staff still had some really valid concerns. And most of that really centered around this fear of being overwhelmed with masses of people who were untrained and they believed wouldn't be committed to what we were doing. So that is why we started really small with a pilot in our Brent site. And we were really very, very deliberate about that. One, it's our smallest location, and two, historically, it's been the hardest for us to recruit for. So we knew the need was clear, we knew the staff would be more open to it, but it also meant we could keep the group sizes quite small at the beginning. So we could learn quickly, we could gather feedback and implement it live, we could respond in real time. And we could really approach it with staff that we were testing and learning. This wasn't an enforced change and it wasn't permanent. We were just seeing if it could work. And once the team did see the benefits of extra hands at the right time and with minimal fuss, their mindset did shift pretty quickly. And our Brent site became real staff champions. They were our biggest cheerleaders of one-off volunteering. And we know that's important because peer-to-peer advocacy works far better than something coming centrally or something coming from the HQ. But we also knew that we needed to look at what we were asking them to do alongside managing these volunteers. The process had to work for the teams. We couldn't ask teams to suddenly manage a new system on top of a new model. So throughout this pilot, we launched it just on a Microsoft Forms. It was just a single Microsoft Forms. And when we used Excel to track bookings, comms, and attendance. It's still what we use now. I will go into a little bit later what we want in the future from a tech and a VMS, but we are still coordinating it in this simple way. And when we're logging attendance and tracking hours, we simply created a dummy record, a one-off volunteer in our current database. And that allows sites to see groups of volunteers show up in their rotas as it normally would. It allows them to confirm attendance as they normally would. We weren't asking them to change anything. We were taking all of the admin and we were creating just the simplest ways we could do it to see if it had legs. And ultimately, the combination of a phased pilot, of having these staff champions and using these simple systems to get it off the ground is what gave us proof of concept. And from that came the momentum for us to be able to scale it across Little Village.
As Calleigh mentioned, the staff at the other side were so excited to try our one-off sessions after the success at Brent. So in a similar way, we held a couple of test dates at each of the other sites to make sure it worked just as well. With consistent positive feedback and staff on board, we made a commitment to integrate one-off volunteering as part of our core offer. Reassuringly, from even the earliest dates, we saw high uptake and conversion rates, even with minimal promotion. People were hungry for this type of opportunity, and we were excited to offer it. And then at the end of last year in 2024, something else happened that really helped us kick off things more seriously. Thanks to a very successful campaign, we were overwhelmed with far more donations than usual. And feeling positive about one-off volunteering, we saw an opportunity to strategically map additional one-off volunteering days across all sites for bigger groups and more often. And we realized that we could be really deliberate about this to cover period of high activity, whether it's that seasonal or after a campaign. One of the great benefits of these one-off days is having the control of when we host them, meaning only when we need them. This helps with staff planning, capacity, volunteer numbers, and also recruitment. We have used this now to map multiple dates across all sites from now until the end of the year. This decision to commit meant that we were able now to start properly recruiting externally, not just invite only like it was at the beginning. So we created specific one-off flyers. We added the opportunity to the front page of our website. We added it to local volunteer centers and also specifically on university portals because we know how popular it is with staff and students. So we tried to put it out there as much as possible. We also used it as a chance to invite our existing volunteers, the regular volunteers, to visit a different site for the day, or to give remote volunteers the chance to come on site and help and do something different. This was incredibly popular, and we see an ongoing high amount of regular volunteers doing this, specifically at our warehouse, which previously hadn't been open to volunteers at all. So we truly continue to be surprised by the success of each date, many of which book out as soon as they open. And this, talking about peer-to-peer support, spreading the word, we ask our baby bank managers to give us some quotes. And this is what Renata from our Brent site told us the other day. It's always wonderful to see our one-off volunteer days fully booked with people eager to help. These sessions have been a huge support, especially during busy periods or when we are short on regular volunteers. Our one-off volunteers roll up their sleeves and happily get stuck into all the tasks around the house. And she says, and the magic gets even bigger when some of them are inspired to come back and join us as regular volunteers.
But that doesn't mean that it's been smooth sailing the whole way. We have hit some hurdles and we've had to unpick a few challenges. Some of these we foresaw, others didn't come up, we hadn't considered until they came up. So I thought it'd be useful to share some of these with you. And the first one was returners. So many volunteers wanted to return and we were excited about that, but we then began to ask ourselves, well, if they keep coming back, are they still one-offs? Are they becoming regular volunteers? And if they are, do we need to then be filtering them through our standard onboarding process? And ultimately, we decided that yes, they could come back. They could return as many times as they want, as that was the point of one-off volunteering, was to get more people in the door. But it meant that we would need to develop, even if it's light touch, some form of conversion journey. So follow-up messages, invites to be on a mailing list, ways that they could come back and become a regular volunteer, have access to future dates. We had to continue that conversation. And that's something that we're developing now, because we are recognizing one-off volunteering not only as an opportunity to boost capacity, but also as a pipeline for future volunteers. We'd also noticed that at the very beginning, there was a little bit of friction between some of our regular volunteers and the groups of one-offs coming in because they feared they would create extra work. And we shifted this very quickly and very early on by deliberately sharing lots of stories of success, lots of photos, creating leadership opportunities and buddying roles for existing volunteers on the day, and really reinforce that more hands, less pressure mindset around one-off volunteering, because that's something that our regular volunteers were saying to us really often, that there was so much to be done and they needed more help. But it did remind us that we have to be really deliberate in how we talk about one-off volunteering, not just externally, but internally, and making sure that we position it well and putting as much thought and consideration into how volunteers would receive it as we did bringing the staff involved as well. Thankfully, the story has a happy ending and they work harmoniously now, but it's something that maybe we would have considered with a bit more thought at the time. But also, as there is limited training and supervision with one-offs, it rose the question of safeguarding and age. So we felt without training and supervision, it was a slightly higher risk activity, particularly when we were looking at young volunteers. So we agreed that the minimum age for one-off volunteering would be 14, and that would be with an accompanying adult. And we also had very strict guidelines around what the adult to under 18 ratio would be when we were bringing in groups. And that meant we were still able to offer something to young volunteers. We were still able to open the door and welcome them in, but do it in a way that felt safe. There was also some concern that non-paid groups might confuse, upset, or even undermine our existing corporates who are paying for essentially the same thing, a group session. So we had to clarify really clearly what the distinction between the two were. And ultimately, we decided that corporates would have full exclusivity within a group. They would have choice of whereas one-off volunteers would be in a mixed group. They had no control over who would be in that group. They also didn't have influence over the time, the day, or the location. as Daniela said, they were very much in our control of when we needed them. And I think by being really clear with that, both internally and externally, we were able to protect the model of both and make sure that we manage expectations well for both. But there were also other things that came up. So the group dynamics, we had lots of people making requests to come in as smaller groups with their friends or with their colleagues, which led us to adjust how we managed our session sizes and accessibility. We also had to make sure that one-offs were included in our policies where we needed to. How far did that go? How far could we support people when we really knew far less about them than our regular volunteers? And that included those with additional needs. We also acknowledge that the operational time and effort that goes into hosting these fluctuates, as does our activity. So we've made a commitment to review them regularly with the sites that are on the ground.
So how is it going now? Well, from January to April, just 4 months, 2025, we have hosted 30 one-off sessions at our 3 baby banks and our warehouse. A total of 357 people booked themselves in to join one of these sessions, and most of them were getting in contact with Little Village for the very first time. Out of all these people booked, someone, of course, had to cancel and a few didn't show up. But a total of 263 volunteers came and joined their sessions, which gives us our overall conversion rate of 73%. This is now actually built in our KPIs for the year, with a goal to host 60 volunteers a month just for these one-off sessions. This would be equivalent to about 300 volunteering hours a month, meaning 3,600 hours in a year. This will be 10% of the total number of hours donated by all our volunteers, which we think is amazing. And we are already exceeding this. And let's remember these numbers. This was just an idea until only a few months ago. But on top of all those numbers and the huge help that every volunteering hour gives us practically with donations, we have also started seeing other positive effects, what we call ripple effects, that we hadn't even considered before. For example, among all the amazing people, new people that we are meeting at these sessions, there is a huge variety of experiences and expertise. In fact, if you see at the picture, you can see Nisha and Stefano. Both of them offer to lend their professional skills within project at Little Village. Nisha had a background in procurement and sustainability. During her one-off session here, she got chatting to the warehouse staff about their difficulties with eco-friendly packaging. From this, she's now working with our stock team as a skills-based volunteer to help develop new ideas. And Stefano, on the other hand, got chatting about scaling and growth and then offered pro bono support from his workplace. So both of them, full-time working professionals, they wouldn't be supporting Little Village at all in this way if it wasn't for them joining one-off session that day. Other volunteers, other examples, they offer to talk with their companies and they sent us unexpected financial donations. Other sent us corporate donations. For example, when I went to the warehouse in January, I met Annie, an employee of Herbalife, and she was loving her session that day so much that she went back to her company and asked them to gift us some packages, some boxes of toiletries, which was amazing. Other people have also started organized donation drives with their children's school and gave us other magnificent donations of clothes and shoes. And even one person even wrote a blog post about their experience and they shared it on social media and with the whole company. But behind all of this, we've been looking also at our data, specifically, how are people hearing about us, about these opportunities? Knowing this is crucial to being able to continue to grow our one-off volunteering. Looking at the past 4-month applications, we were extremely pleased to see volunteers found our one-off opportunities directly through a Google search, an internet search. We have worked really hard on our website to include information and links to our one-off sessions in as many pages as possible, making sure we mention also CSR days. And now, as you can see in the slide, a Google search for one-off volunteering in London shows 3 sponsored results at the top, and then Little Village, which is absolutely stunning. And to mention, we haven't put any money at all behind this. So this is completely organic from updating the copy on the website and how few other people and companies are offering this. We know that not many charities offer micro-volunteering days, and it's really hard to find a way for employees to use their CSR days. So we're really happy that we can help. With all the employees coming to us for their company volunteering days, it's no surprise that the second largest group of people said they heard about this opportunity at work or from one of their colleagues. Word of mouth is still the best way to involve new people, and this is proving very efficient also in the workplace. And the third largest group of people said they noticed our one-off opportunity on Instagram, which is no surprise because we have been posting about it at least once a month for a while, and the word we know is spreading fast on social media. Just to give you other few examples of things that were mentioned by other volunteers where they heard about us at the university. From our website directly, a friend, word of mouth, from a local volunteer center, and some of them have been previously volunteered with us in the past, but they had to stop, and some of them have donated some items to Little Village.
So that's very much about where we started and where we are now. But with all this positivity and growth that we're seeing within one-off volunteering, where do we want to get to? So this slide really brings together our ambitions for what's next. And there are 3 key areas we want to develop, and that is the volunteer experience, increase our impact tracking, and to grow more opportunities. So I mean, I can't cover everything that's all on our plan, but I think these are the key points we really want to focus on. And if we look at improving experience, as we said, we'd already simplified the sign up and onboarding process, and that's a key part of that one-off experience. But next, we want to introduce bite-sized training, so one-off volunteers can feel even better prepared and even more connected to Little Village and our cause and our story before they even start. And long term, we'd really like to tailor their experience by the type of volunteer they are. It's very likely that a CSR group, are going to want and need very different things from us in the beginning compared to someone who might want to come down on a Saturday morning by themselves. And if we look at our impact tracking, so as we mentioned, we are using Excel and dummy records and Microsoft Forms, and although that's working for us at the minute, it certainly isn't a long-term solution. And some of the things we want to get better at tracking would be improving our DEI insights. So really finding out from these one-off volunteering days, who is volunteering with us, who are we attracting, who are we not attracting, and importantly, how different is that from our regular volunteers? What's the change in demographic between the 2 groups? And as we look to 2025, one of our real key priorities is getting an LMS, VMS, so moving away from Excels and Microsoft Forms. Hopefully, a slightly purpley shaded VMS is on our goals for this year, because they are able to do a lot of this automatically for you. Daniela and her colleague Kate spent a lot of hours manually tallying the stuff that we've shared with you, but with the right systems in place, this is much richer data and much quicker processes, which again is easier for everybody else. And we want to use that as well, not to just look at who is getting on board now, but who is staying on board over time. So what is their journey? Who's turned into a regular volunteer? How many times did they come? And lastly, when we're looking at growing opportunities, so we're already planning some theme days. We'll be trialing family volunteering in Little Village across the summer and into the autumn. We're also doing some parent and baby mornings. We want to host groups just for particular partners. And we'd like to, as I mentioned earlier, develop a formalised conversion journey. So looking at our comms and mailing lists that we're making even easier for those that do want to come back in a number of ways, not just necessarily one-off volunteering, but that want to stay engaged with Little Village, making that as easy as possible for them as we can. And then hopefully down the line, we'd like to look at running leadership pathways, whether that is for one-off volunteers that keep returning, or whether that's for existing volunteers that want to take on leadership roles. It's something that we want to develop there. So yes, where do we want to get to? It is about scaling up and growing one-off volunteering, but actually underneath that, it's about deepening their connection to Little Village and the impact of what they are doing and what they can do with their time. And that is so that one-off volunteering isn't just one and done, it's just one day at a time. It's part of a longer term engagement journey with Little Village. And this landed in our inbox on Friday, so it is as hot off the press as it can come. And it came from a lady who attended a one-off day at our warehouse, who also then sweet talked Kate, our volunteer recruitment coordinator, into letting her bring her colleague on as well. And you can see to the left of the slide the email that she sent Kate saying what a wonderful time they had. But to the right is an image that they created themselves and they circulated across their entire organisation, not only telling people what a great time they had, who Little Village were, but also asking them for kit donations. They had really heard what the warehouse was saying, where our stock levels were very low. And again, as time goes on, we will build things like this into our conversion journeys, but this is all organic. They were so struck by what they had seen and their positive experience on the day that they had done this themselves. So that is a sort of a whistle-stop tour of all the things that we have done. But Daniela and I sat and had a chat about what we were going to end on. What were the key points that we really wanted you to take away from our experience? It will be slightly different from everyone else, but for our experience, these were the key things. So first things first, look at your activity, break down the role. Where can you divide tasks or roles into simple standalone activities that one-off volunteers could do? Think pick and pack like we did. Don't think about running the show. It's where are the low risk but high value activities that volunteers can help you with. How can you anchor yourself? Easy to find, easy to sign up, makes it easy to show up. So streamline everything, simplify everything wherever you can, ditch the barriers and use basic sign-ups, use templates, review your training. Where is it absolutely necessary? And in some places it is, but where is it not absolutely necessary? Where can it be simplified? And just ask yourself, what is enough to simply get people started? And start small, prove the model first. Test on limited dates or sites or teams or roles, do a pilot just as we did and get that feedback live, tweak it live and make sure you're recruiting champions within your staff as you do that to share their successes, to bring their peers along with them. And think beyond the day. It's not one and done, it's one day at a time. It doesn't have to be one-off forever. One-offs can become repeat helpers, repeat volunteers, regular volunteers. Many of them really want to. They just want to test it out first. But even if it's not volunteering, these people become our advocates. They can become donors, voices in the community. That one single shift, if they have a great time, can spark something long-term and much more wider spread. So build on that momentum. And then slightly controversially, I would say, know your risks, but don't be afraid of them. It's a new idea. It's a new way of working. These sorts of things are always a little bit scary, but just be upfront with yourself, be upfront with your teams, be upfront with the volunteers, the sites, know what they are, know what the potential pitfalls are, and think creatively. Do what you can to work around them, and don't let it stall process. Just alter your thinking, start it small and get it off the ground and give it a go. So yeah, that was our journey at Little Village. Those are the things that worked well, some of the things that we wish we had considered earlier on, and where we want to get to from there. I'm happy, Daniela and I, really happy to take any questions if people have. We can't promise to know all the answers, but we can certainly share what has worked for us.
Thank you so much, both of you. Really appreciate it. And my cheeks are hurting because I was smiling so much at all these amazing ideas. And it's just so heartwarming how you've taken this idea and rolled with it. And that was really interesting. The thing that got what I've taken from it as well is, I think, the marketing idea of one-off versus saying taster sessions, because it essentially is a taster session. And I think when you say taster session, they're like, okay, I probably have to commit afterwards, where you're really like, if you want to, if you're getting a benefit from them doing this one-off, but if they want to join as well, great added benefit. So I think that that really struck out to me. So thank you so much. And as soon as you have the family volunteering, start, promoting it, feel free to send it to me. I'd love to bring my son over. That's a great idea.
Great.
I would love to open to the floor. We do have so many questions come through, and I'll probably have to weed through all of them. Gethin, do you want to maybe ask your question to Calleigh and Daniela?
Thank you. I had two, so I'll just do the first one because I'm sure other people want to jump in as well. And to echo that, thank you. That was a great story and really generous with your insights. I was interested in the impact that it might or might not have had on existing volunteers. You said a couple of different really interesting things, a concern about extra impact on workload. My mind initially went to, was there a sort of a status tension with existing, more regular, better volunteers? I see that quite a lot. I wondered if that came up for you at all, and if so, how you might have managed that.
Yeah, absolutely. We definitely did get that sort of hierarchy of really well-established volunteers quite early on, and it wasn't very loudly, but we started to get sort of a whisper that maybe these groups would be a bit of a nuisance, and feeding into the whole getting in the way narrative that could have come up quite easily. And staff were very open to us, open with us from the beginning to say, well, actually, the groups are getting a bit annoyed why the one-offs get to do the nice bits of activity that they want to do. They don't want to have to just do the hard bits. And for us, that's why I said we didn't spend enough time introducing it to volunteers. We spent all of our time thinking about how we positioned it externally, and the rest of our time onboarding staff. And what we should have done is taken a step before that to really, explain in our comms, explain in existing volunteer briefings, introduce into the handbook that this idea was coming. This is why they were coming. This is where it come from. This is what they'd be doing. And this is how it works alongside your role. And I think not doing that is what caused those initial whispers. We didn't think to onboard the volunteers because we just thought, it'll be great. They're constantly saying they want more bodies on site. We're giving them more bodies. But actually, that wasn't the case at the beginning. And we shared a lot of success stories. We do that in all of our comms. We thank all the volunteers that help to buddy and mentor them when they come on site. We've integrated it sort of into our internal speak now. It's part of what we do. But that, I think, had we had been more considered with that at launch, I don't think it would have happened. We should have just contextualized why we were bringing them in and the role that they played, because actually now everybody is really quite positive about it. And the ones that are slightly more inclined to think like that are the ones we're trying to push into more leadership roles. So we have this group of new people in, you know it best, do you reckon you could help guide them through the shoes or show them how the toys work? And actually that's also working well, and that is something we want to develop in the leadership pathways as well, to be deliberate about that, because people volunteer for different reasons. They get different things out of it. Daniela, I don't know if you wanted to add anything to that.
No, I think you said it all. But yes, I remember the first few sessions receiving a bit of feedback, like, "Oh, who are they? Why are they coming?" But yeah, once we explained it, everything went better.
Did you, Ruth has also asked about returning volunteers. Do you have data of how many have returned? I don't know if you mentioned it. I know you spoke about, what it will look like.
Yeah, so well, Daniela would be much better pitched to give you the details, but currently it is painfully manual. So it is Daniela and Kate in their Excel spreadsheet. We're hoping a lot of this will be solved by a VMS, or at least taking some of these manual processes out. But it is cross-referencing lists and who's on the database. So we're not doing it on a weekly or monthly basis at the minute. We're going to do it periodically so we can get it done in one go. But a lot of people are mentioning on their application form, where did they hear from us? I came to a one-off day and I absolutely loved it. Or they'll email after the one-off day and go, that was amazing, please tell me how I can sign up more. So we've got a lot of anecdotal, and hopefully sort of after 6 months and 12 months, we'll then go through and cross-reference the data. Daniela, and then
on top of my mind, just numbers, I say 357 booked in the last 4 months. At least 40-50 people are returning of those to do more one-off sessions, so no regulars, and at least 15 have become regulars instead. So
brilliant.
And it's just important to say that is without any deliberate conversion, which is why we never anticipated a regular volunteer conversion. It was one-off days, but now we've noticed that is a pattern. We now need to build things deliberately to take people to do that, because the appetite is 100% there.
Brilliant. Karen mentioned at Tenerife they have 54 shops across Wales and England, and do you think that is too many to keep tabs on for one and done? So I think you mentioned in your presentation how you did a pilot session first with Brent.
Yeah.
Is that what you would recommend? Yeah,
exactly that. When we first floated the idea of one-off volunteering with our very stretched, very busy teams, it didn't land well at all. But by shrinking it to just a pilot and just working with that one team, because we didn't know either what the teething problems would be on the ground, but by doing it in a small site, and a small site that was really struggling with recruitment, we were able to work all that out live. And then, then we went to one more site, and then we went to another. So not that I'm suggesting you do 54 pilots, Karen, but it might be actually that you just put them into groups, whether they're regionally or however they're set up, and just try working with those teams and see how it goes. There are a lot of learnings, a lot of changes that we made after the first couple of sessions that had immediate impact, that made sessions 3, 4 and onwards much easier, but we had to see it live before we could do that.
Brilliant. I'm conscious we have 5 minutes left, and we've got quite a few questions. So if anyone wants to jump in, raise their hand, I'm also more than happy. Sarah did mention, also picked up on the family volunteering that you mentioned. Do you have any examples of these that you could share?
Of the family volunteering days? Yeah, so our first family volunteering day are one in June and one in July. So Little Village, way back when Daniela said, when we were volunteer led, we did a lot of family volunteer days, but they weren't deliberate. They were just volunteers who brought their kids along. And as we got bigger and roles got more structured, and it wasn't something we continued, and we just want to bring it back. So we are going to use the template, the structure that we have built from the one-off days, and we are going to lift it straight over into a family volunteering day. So it's going to be invite only at first, so particular high net worth donors that we know want to bring their children in and ask a lot. So we'll have a much smaller group to work with and learn live with in the same way. We're doing it in a site that's already open on a Saturday, so we're not having to change process, and we're just running it in parallel to the existing session. We will tell those families as they come along that it is our first and it is a pilot. We're trying it. We've got some ideas of how to onboard and engage the children in a different way that we would adults. And again, we have split the activity, so we can't expect a 5-year-old to tell the difference between a dirty top or not, but we could say, are there, you know, this is a age 2 to 3 puzzle, are all the pieces there?
Can you make it?
Yeah, so we are creating purposeful activities. For us, though, I think one-off volunteering in general has an operational benefit. I think family volunteering, we're not seeing as an operational asset, we're seeing it as an engagement one. This is how we engage with families that we aren't otherwise. They're not going to get through cages of donations in one session. One-off volunteers are. So that's another piece of work we have to do internally to really explain why we're introducing different types of volunteering. But come back to us at the end of June. I will tell you how it went, because right now it's this idealistic vision that we're going to have 10 really well-behaved 5-year-olds and really calm parents. Optimism has got us this far, Daniela. It will take us the rest of the way.
I think family volunteering is really trending at the moment. I'm doing one in June at our local asylum drop-in centre, because they have like kids my son's age, and they were like, bring him along. So I'm really excited about that. So I'll tell you a bit more after I do that. We have so many questions, and people, the local Home Start from Brent has been on here, and really excited to have seen this presentation as they signpost a lot of their families to your charity, which is lovely. We are running out of time. Maybe we'll have to do a follow-up session. I don't know how much I can convince you to do that, but this has been super, super, super helpful. Are you okay with us sharing the slides in the follow-up email?
We're going to say, if people have questions,
you can send it to us.
You can send it to us. Yeah, happy to put our email addresses at the end of the slides, maybe, and you can just drop us an email if you want to pick it up.
If you're happy to consent, I'm more than happy to copy you into the follow-up email where people can just respond and connect with you. And also this recording will also be on the follow-up email and the slide. So thank you again, Daniela and Calleigh. We really, really appreciate it, and keep up the amazing work.
Thank you
so much, everyone.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.